This has been baffling to me. I understand the analytics. I also understand the eye test. And the those two communities, when it comes to watching the sport of hockey, have differing opinions on the Carolina Hurricanes. Meghan Chayka, co-founder, CEO of Stathletes, hockey data and analytics company, which supplies insights to the NHL, ESPN, TSN, draft coverage, all of that. She joins us on the Adam Gold Show, and there she is if you're watching on YouTube. Meghan, I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Where is the difference? We spoke to Greg Wyshynski of ESPN. He doesn't think the Hurricanes are a playoff team. The analytics community loves the Hurricanes still. Why does what Carolina does appeal to the data set as opposed to some of the eye test?
Well, I think that's fairly bold to say that they won't make the playoffs. I would argue, they have so many tailwinds of good metrics. So, yes, the analytics community likes them, but I think even eye test people like them for various reasons. One, they get a lot of shots, right? Their shot quantity is there. They were the number one team in the NHL in shot attempts, over 73 shot attempts per game last season. And they also drive quality that way. They know that they're going to get the pucks to the net. They get deflections. They get tips. They're not looking for that initial shot. I was actually just talking to an NHL player, and he was laughing that his team was actually lower on the shot attempt amount and pointed to Carolina as a team they could emulate a little bit more. So even NHL players know the Hurricanes are going to shoot, and they're going to get pucks on the net, and they're going to try to get in the back of the net through different reasons.
Meghan Chayka is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Canes will open tonight against Tampa Bay. Carolina's looked at as a great defensive team. Is it their defense that we respect and we credit for that, or is it the way they play offensively that really enhances their defense?
Maybe, but I would take a big hat tip to how they're coached. I mean, their man-on-man defensive strategy, their structure, the way that they know what their assignments are is incredible, right? Because when you're playing zone, sometimes you can get mixed up. Who's your man? Who do you have to cover? Whereas, they know who they're chasing. So, yes, you can break that down too. But if you're looking at an 82-game schedule, that man-on-man or defensive structure is really reliable, and you can also hold players very accountable. So there's a couple good reasons why you would run that. I mean, in the playoffs, maybe it's a little bit grueling, so there can be challenges. You maybe should look at a hybrid instead of just going all man-on-man. But I would say over that 82 games, there's something defensively to say that, you have to give a big check mark for the Hurricanes on that aspect. They're also extremely good at puck recoveries. They actually have the most puck recoveries in the NHL, 104 in the offensive zone last season. So they get to a lot of pucks too. Very anticipatory, a very fast team.
Meghan Chayka is joining us here. The analytics side of hockey is what she does. So, puck. What are some of the other metrics that jump out to you as to why Carolina is so successful?
I like how much their defensemen are involved, right? It's a very much a team effort. You're not looking at just one superstar or a couple superstars to carry your team. Everyone's involved. They actually had a first in shots from defensemen last year. So you see a lot of offense from all over the zone. And for that reason, right, you can't just cover one person, right? You're not chasing Connor McDavid all night.
Right.
You're looking at it from all angles, and you have a Brent Burns that can put a heavy slap shot on the net. You have all sorts of defensemen that can become involved in plays and maybe play a little bit of that positionless hockey, which is very in vogue right now.
Meghan Chayka is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. You mentioned Brent Burns. Two guys that are not there this year, Brady Shea and Brett Pesce, were two of the best in the entire NHL over the last 3 years. I know at time on ice, at 5-on-5, they had the second most time on ice of any defensive pair. As a duo, only second to Jacob Trouba and Keandre Miller of the Rangers combined over the last 3 years, and that's through Brett Pesce dealing with some injuries here and there at times. How do you go about replacing that? Do analytics help you do that?
Of course. Analytics just give you a much broader stroke of the entire league, and you're looking at undervalued assets. So yes, you need people to play time, but you also need people to create value that play within the structure. that can complement some of your players. So are you going to do a one-for-one replacement? Maybe not. But when you're looking at retooling some of those positions, looking at advanced models that help support what you want to play as the Carolina Hurricanes, and they do have that very specific blueprint, right? A lot of shots, a lot of great quality, and get the puck, get those offensive zone puck recoveries. So players that rank high in those type of metrics, you're looking at.
Meghan Chayka, who is the CEO of Stathletes, here as we talk a little bit about the analytics side of the sport. Do the metrics say that Dmitry Orlov and Jalen Chatfield, who for my money were actually Carolina's best defensive pairing in the playoffs last year, do the numbers say that they can replace Shea and Pesce, or do we just not know?
I mean, I think it's one of those things where, you need a sample size from this season to feel comfortable with any of those type of replacements. I think that you're looking at your core, though, as what drives the most of your squad, and whatever those, plug and play pieces are, you're hopeful, obviously, from the analytics. We talked about Tulski being an analytics person as well, came up through the game in terms of writing research. So, there's a lot of advanced modeling to understand how those players play and how they should be coached. And there's never just a one-for-one in the NHL. That's the unfortunate part. But, there's a lot of teams that are able to cycle in players. You look at a team like the Boston Bruins, who always seem to find these role players. So I think you're hopeful as a GM that that's the type of environment that you want to foster, and you don't want every player to play as just a replacement. You want them to be the best version of themselves. That's my short answer to I don't know. I will say I'm actually in Scotland, so right. I was just doing a soccer conference, so I'm not completely into the roster of the Carolina Hurricanes, but it'll be a good season. I think the team has a lot to be hopeful for in terms of some of those players playing the role that they need them to play.
I knew you. I thought you were in Manchester, and I thought maybe you were helping Manchester United.
I landed in Scotland. I am in Manchester. Okay. You're correct. There you go.
I figured you were going to help United find a replacement for Eric Ten Hag, but we don't have to get into that. But I do want to talk again as we get further along into the season. I hope you'll come back, and we'll have more to talk about.
Absolutely. Happy to chat at any time.
Thank you very much. That's Meghan Chayka